street to do a video chat or something. So yeah, video. I think starting look into that's supposed to be helpful if you have a hard point to do that. Yeah, great. You're on a roll. You're doing so great. I'm really appreciative because I think you explain a concept is so powerful. But that's really the core, as you said, ending demand is ending the demand desire in our heart. Where do we direct those desires? The desires are healthy for intimacy to be loved, but when we direct into the wrong place, we don't get it and become vicious cycle.
Right.
You want more and more, and keep feeding that.
Right.
And I knew in the past I've not heard you talk about the jail experiences, so I just had no idea what happened. You know, I watched those prison breaks to see what happened to people in prison. I'm like, oh my gosh, just on my mind was like, imagining what could happen to you during that time. And wow, this is interesting. It was in that moment you no longer need to pretending. You become yourself.
Right.
And then you can become effective even during that state.
Yeah.
Other people, give the other people permission to become real. And wow, that's pretty amazing.
It's known in prison that, you know, rapists and child molesters are usually very they're treated very poorly in that world.
Yeah.
And for me, when I actually told story, it did just the opposite, and I didn't expect that. The thing was, I told that boy the story so I could help him kind of shut up and go away. But what happened was he went and told that story to everybody else, and it started a whole ball rolling. And so yeah, even very early, I was learning that authenticity was your better way, which I didn't know or understand at the time. Yeah, so, and it's interesting, very interesting. Oh no, they're stuck again.
No, the Wi-Fi popped off again. What is going on? No, now it's back.
Okay, are you there?
Not yet.
Get off of this image.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
You're recording with.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. Can you talk about, so I still didn't fully get it. So the guy would have showed up, but he said, you got something I want. What was the thing explain to him you got? I'm curious now. I want something.
Well, you know, I think, he had the opportunity to tell a story without judgment. Who was I going to throw? Are we going to throw a rock at him for what, you know, where I've been? And it just kind of set the tone for him to that he could be real as well, and he was getting connection. I think that's the best way to say it, because I listened to him, I responded, I engaged, you know, and then he wanted to do a Bible study, and so I did a Bible study, just kind of starting out with him, and what we were sharing was kind of centered on the messes that we were in, and how God loves us, and he just took off like crazy. He just bloomed. He was a different individual in that time when we got done, and it had a huge impact. It's an embarrassing thing though, because in prison you have no privacy at all. It's forced openness. I mean, you know, the bathroom, the shower, you have no rights there, and so, you know, and we have there's women prison guards, and so it's like there's no, you know, it's openness, and so it's a little interesting to go from a closed up world where nobody gets to know anything to actually be in a situation where you have no choice. But
that's interesting. It's almost like forced everybody to walk in light because there's no more place to hide anymore. Right? In the prison situation. So when you said, why does he want Bible study? I really want you to elaborate that. It's like what did you say to him? You want some of that if you're going to change person?
Well, I think, I was repentant myself and talking about, the desire for God to heal and change, and then I'm turning this around. And by the time I got to prison, there was a year. I had there was a year from arrested to prison or to jail. So there was a lot of process in there that got me in a better space, but I was still like, no way do I want to tell anybody where I've been and done. I felt really, I felt like trash, it was terrible. But it was we just started out with, it was actually 1 John 1:5-10. And we started there, and we opened up, and then we just kind of did some things on relationship, and I don't remember the whole set of scriptures that we used, but he just nonstop. I mean, you don't have no time. You have nothing else to do. So he literally was sitting next to me, so I couldn't even hardly get sleep because he just had questions and wanted to talk, and So he forced me out of silence, basically. And by the end of it, though, I was appreciating the fact that he wanted to talk, because then it made the time go much easier.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So during that year when you were waiting for a trial and everything else, what happened? What happened to your marriage? What happened to the church leadership position you were in? What led to any transformation, reflection?
When I was arrested, after that lady turned me in, let's start there. So after the woman got my license plates and turned me in, the police showed up my door a couple hours later, and when I went home from that situation, I sat down and talked to my ex-wife. Now what had happened, and no sooner than I got it done, talking about it, the police showed up at the door, and the whole thing of being arrested, and my neighborhood saw it, and me getting in handcuffs, and so I went through a night in jail, all night in jail in kind of a holding tank, and then my parents posted bail. And so I was out the next day, but I went to a board, the elders board at the church that night that I was out, and there was 12 elders, and the elders and some leaders as well, and they just literally one by one just tore me to pieces. And I look back and I get it. I lied to them. I broke trust. I was, I betrayed them, betrayed the position, because I lied and all that, and it caught everybody by surprise. Nobody had any clue. And so I know they were hurt. So I look back on it now with, I get it. They were responding out of hurt, but it was the hall of shame. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. Even more harmful than the things I went through in sexual trauma, because it made it even worse in the sense that, I know I can't tell anybody in the church now for sure. I already had that feeling, but now I know. I mean, they called me names. They told me that I couldn't connect with anybody, that nobody could call me. I was not to call anyone else. I was on my own. They gave me one person from the church elder that was to meet with me once a week, but that person didn't meet with me once every 2 or 3 weeks, met with me, and he was very off. He didn't really spend much time, nor was he helpful. And about 3 months later, he actually was exposed that he was having an affair. So it was the one person that they gave me to help really wasn't helping, but I was not in the church anymore. So I was out. And so the people who I was once friends with were no longer there. There was no connection. So I'm in a problem. I'm in this whole issue because of isolation internally. And now they just doubled down on isolation by throwing me out with no friendships, nobody to connect with me, nobody to walk with me, nobody to help me, not even offering to pay for counseling or to give me some kind of guidance. It was just, I'm a scumbag, I'm a liar, I'm a wolf in sheep's clothing. I could go on and on and on. That made it so that I even felt worse about myself than when it happened. So I would say that they mishandled this thing big time. And so to be honest, if God is choosing to never leave or abandon us in any situation in our life, and we as a ministry are called to walk alongside of, to walk God's principles, to walk out who He is and in the flesh, then why are we abandoning and why are we judging what God is not? So the last thing I needed was to be ostracized. Did I need consequences? Absolutely. There's no question that there should have been discipline. The question is that discipline should never be abandonment.
Mm-hmm. That's really a powerful statement. Thank you.
Yeah. So the church was my worst enemy in the moment. And I committed that I would never walk back into another church for the rest of my life. I was done. And I was hurt, and it isn't the church's problem. We had individuals who were hurt and mishandled it. But I see it over and over and over again that when a leader, especially a leader, fails, has a moral failure, we don't want to justify it. They need consequences, but we ostracize them. We demonize them. We make them like they are perverts and weirdos and freaks and liars and all this language we use, and we do nothing to restore them back to the body of Christ. So every person that's sitting in the church, seeing how that person's being handled, says, "Well, I have stuff even worse than him. The heck, I'm not. There's no way in the world I'm going to come out with my stuff." So the way we handle people fallen determines whether we actually see other fallen people come out in the open and talk. So if we're if we're ostracizing, destroying individuals because they struggle, then no one's going to come in the open. Everybody's going to hide. They're going to pretend. So nobody's getting help. And what they need to see is that there is hope. Hope meaning that person can be restored. That person can be healed. That person can thrive again. That's not the end of their story, and we're going to help you get there. That's what they need to see, so that they can feel confident in their own struggle, that they can come out in the open and know that they're going to be handled well, and they're not going to have their worst nightmare being lived out.
Mm-hmm. That's a really powerful statement. Thank you. Seems like the jail become your church instead of the church.
Yeah.
Where you go on Sundays. Do you ever go back to church?
Oh yeah. I'm very involved. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
But it took me a while. I didn't get there overnight.
That's great. Well, that's really good to hear. So walk us back from you were in a jail and there's different people being saved. Then what happened, including this young man? What happened after that? When you came out from jail, what happened to your marriage? What happened to your work? What do you have to do?
For a season of time, when I got out, nobody was talking to me other than my parents, and my dad was my business partner. So I just poured myself into business and worked and stayed away from the people as much as possible that were. And I lived in a small community, so it wasn't easy to do. But
where was you? Were you in LA?
I was in northern LA County, which is Lancaster, Palmdale. Those are the last cities in LA County. And so those are smaller communities in high desert. But so I stayed away from the church for a while, and then there was an individual who knew my story but was kind and treated me well in business. I was a roofing contractor. He was a plasterer, and we had good interaction. We'd have coffee, we'd have lunch, and he treated me well. And he went to a different church, and he invited me to come to his church. And he started out with me going to his youth group or his life group. So him and his wife led a group at home, in their home. And so I went there, and the way they treated me there drew me back into, well, at least I'll try to go to the church. So I sat in the back, get to know him, and I ended up engaging and be involved in that church. Within the next year or two, I was back in fully going and involved. But it was, individual reaching out and treating me with dignity, and not saying that what I did was okay, and not treating it as no big deal. But he opened his whole home and his life. It was a really amazing thing for me. So I got back involved in church. Yeah.
That's great. So that's wonderful. So then where do you go from there? You talk about recovery. That's where you learn things from recovery.
Yeah.
Before we start began, when did that happen? Where did you go?
Yeah.
So that's like there was a 30-year period before you met Grace. At some point, I do want to go back there.
Okay, let's
hurry.
hurry.
How do you cover the 30 years?
Okay, we'll do this shorter, a little bit shorter,
Okay.
but okay. So, so when I got out of prison, out of jail, and came back, when I got out of jail, I came back, and I started working in the roofing world and staying busy and realizing that. My life was a mess, but I just didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know where to go. I tried Christian counseling. That was a disaster because they were giving me Bible verses and having me fast, and they were doing going to these conferences that were casting demons into Dixie cups and you name it, all kinds of deliverance stuff and all these magic things in a can kind of thing, and not really looking at any of the issues. And I just didn't know what to do, honestly. I tried all of those things, and they weren't working. And I was feeling very frustrated. And it was this guy who lived about 3 hours away. His name was Butch Plummer. He was a pastor of a church called Colonial Bible Church in Santa Ana, California. And he had a very thriving community. And so he was kind of like a spiritual dad over the years to me when I was in high school, going to teen camps and things like that. And we would keep in touch by phone at least every couple months. And sometimes I'd go down and see him. I lived about 3 hours away. Lancaster to Santa Ana is about 3 hours. And so I just hadn't called him in that year. Coming out of jail, I just didn't talk to him. I didn't call him. I didn't return his phone calls. And so finally he caught me on the phone and he said, "Hey man, I haven't seen you. I don't, what's going on? Are you okay?" I just said, "Yeah, everything's fine. It's just been busy." And so he talked me into coming down and seeing him. And I really didn't want to go see him because I would have to tell him what had happened because he had no idea what had gone on. And so I got a garbage truck making a bunch of noise. Hold on one second.
Okay. We couldn't hear it from this side.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but it's definitely there.
He's making noise.
Okay.
They and trash cans.
Your back was on right, so that's good. I'm glad. Probably 1:12 your time.
Yeah.
Afternoon, right?
Yeah.
When the sun goes down, 4 o'clock? Or?
About 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
4:30, something like that.
Four.
Okay, that's
4:07.
good. Yeah, it's similar to here. Our lights go down too. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead.
So how do we feel? Is that good, or you want to?
Give it one more second. I think they're the last.
It's funny how.
Because it's all trash day.
Yeah, yeah. We're all right. We're gonna get through this.
Oh,
Yeah.
the truck is there.
Yeah,
It's the-
it'll be good. So, what were we saying?
Your roofer,
Yeah.
you got involved in a new church.
Yeah.
You liked it and it was
Yeah.
thriving. All that. Yeah. Go ahead.
So this pastor mentor wanted me to come see him, and so he had no idea that I had gone through all this stuff. I had kept it silent because he was like my last friend in the world, really, and So anyhow, I just said yes, I'll come down, and I'm driving down there, and I'm thinking, what am I going to talk about? Weather, school, whatever. And he just I got into his office, and I sat down, and there was no more than in there maybe 5-10 minutes. And instead of just the typical thing of just talking about odds and ends, I just dumped everything, just literally just blew open. And I had never told anybody or anyone any of this, maybe bits and pieces here and there, but this, I mean, I put it all on the table, and I held back nothing. And then when I did, it took about 2 hours, I imagine. It was a lot of talking. And he gets up from behind his desk, and he walks over towards me, and I don't know what he's going to do, because everything I've seen so far is rejection and punishment and judgment. And so I get up, and I have my fist clenched, because I am not going to take one more thing like this, and I'm ready to take him out. Instead, he just comes up and he just gives me this wrestler's hug, and he's got me in this embrace, and I mean, it's one of those that he's in there. I'm tight, and I'm not going anywhere. And he put his head in my neck, and he just began to weep. He just started weeping. He didn't have words. He just sat there and wept. And it felt extremely uncomfortable at first. And then he just said, I just want you to know I love you, and God loves you, and we're going to get through this. And I'm here, and I'm going to give you whatever time you need to walk this out. We're going to get this. We're going to get through this. And I've been a Christian to that point till 29, almost 30 years. And I didn't know what the heck he just did, but something inside shifted inside. Something inside just broke. And what I recognize now is that it was the first time I've ever tasted real love, because I was genuinely open. I held nothing back, and he was embracing me there. It wasn't a superficial embrace like my biblical knowledge, my education, or my gifting, or my skills. He was embracing the broken Gene, and he was embracing me with tears, and he genuinely loved me. And there are no words for what went on in my soul. He wasn't saying to me, what you did was okay. He knew, and was not in any way, shape, or form reinforcing, oh, what you did was no big deal. He was crying because he saw something more than my shame. He saw something more than my brokenness. He saw something of beauty inside, and he was embracing the real me. And that changed everything in me. What it meant was that, I had a lot of messes to change, but it shifted my heart. It shifted me to want to heal. It shifted me to want to change. It shifted that there's something worth living in. The bigger word there is that I'm not all that debris that's in there, that there's something more to me than that debris. And he gave me a glimpse of it by his embrace. He said to me by his words and his response and the way he handled me, he's saying, I see the gold and I'm embracing it. You are more than this. And to me, that started me on a trajectory that I'm fighting for the good, I'm fighting for the beauty, I'm fighting for what he touched inside of me. And what I realized in every story that I've heard, every human being I've ever worked with, is that there's always debris covering over the gold. And my goal is not to be what everybody else can do, which is to expose the debris and think that that's ministry. That exposing the debris is only necessary so that I can uncover the gold, uncover the beauty, uncover what God created in the original, blueprint of me. And so that is actually the center of what we do, is that every human being has dignity. Every human being has value. And true ministry is to help people see that and then help them uncover that and get through the debris so that they can see what they were made for, show that there's value there, that there's something worth living for. You're made for impact. And so for me, that was very, very important. And when that happened, from that point, I said, what do I need to do to get help? And so I saw him on a weekly basis for support. But he was not a counselor. He just came alongside me. And I began to go to different places to get help. And back in the day, there was no such thing as, there was a lot of people claiming help, but there was very few places where they were really digging in. And my first place was this guy called Ray Jones, who dealt with father wounds and the impact that I had with my relationship with my dad not being available at the time. And so I did the father wound stuff, and then I ran into a woman named Jan Frank who dealt with sexual trauma. And so she wrote a book called A Door of Hope, powerful book. It's still available today, and it profoundly impacted me because I had no clue how the sexual trauma in my life as a young boy affected my sexual acting out and how I saw myself. And so the whole work, so for I'd say a good 6 to 10 years on the journey of healing and changing, and then I found a counselor that dealt with sexual deviance stuff. And so that was Ray Jones, and he's out of California. And he just did an amazing job of helping me look at what is true, what is not, what is healthy, what is not, how did I get there, uprooting those seeds of lies and deception, and planting what is healthy in relationship. He had a profound impact. So I look at recovery being an ongoing and process rather than recovery is not an event. And that's where most of the Christian community especially make the mistake, is they think that by saying a certain prayer or giving you a Bible verse or taking you through a workshop that somehow now you're healed. The idea of healing is process. It's no different than you breaking a leg. You don't heal your leg in one snap of a finger just because they set the cast to fix your broken leg. The healing takes time. And so you need truth. When I broke my leg, I needed to have a doctor set my bones in place in the right way, and then there was a time for my body to actually heal. So the bone had to be set straight first. So truth straightens you out, and then you need the time to heal so that you can actually walk again. And so the idea is recovery is about getting what's true and having the wounds that I've gone through to heal, so that I can actually be productive, impactful, and live life.
That's beautiful, powerful. I don't want to stop your thought process.
No, go ahead.
You're on a road. They're so great. I do want to comment that man, I forgot his name, gave you that embrace, and you said something changed.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, from what I've heard from you so far, that was the moment you finally got the intimacy.
Yeah.
Somebody saw the full you. You don't have to act, pretend, be somebody else, and you finally received that love you've been craving all along, right?
Right.
It seemed like that was really the true intimacy.
Right.
The beginning point of turnaround. And that's just really powerful. What was the thing you shared about? So for 2 hours, you said you just had to let it out. What was the thing? Was that after the jail? Are you still going to doing the stuff, or you were just struggling, trying not to do it, but couldn't, not with the methodology?
After jail, I was in and out of struggle. I was still messing up. I was still still doing stuff, but I was trying to. But I had no tools. In messing up, I can tell you this: at any time that a person continues to re-offend and re-mess up, that their spouse that they're with loses hope, loses heart, and many marriages end because the person who's struggling can't seem to live out what they say they want to do. And so the living out the negative always ends up causing more damage. And so I would say that my ex-wife took years of damage from just trying to live my words and not knowing how to live those words. So that's why recovery is so important, is because people want to change. I can tell you this right now. I know tons of people who want to heal and change, but don't know how to get there. And so because they don't know how to get there, they keep defaulting. They default back to the very things that they know because they don't know any other way to do it. And when they default, it just makes them look like a liar, a deceiver, they're not wanting to change, and they're hurting the other people around them. And I believe with all my heart, it's most of that is not because they don't want to change or that they're just trying to be rebellious. I believe they're just not getting the right help. And I would say that people coming to me who have been through years of therapy and years of programs, and they start getting healing and change, are blown away because we're actually dealing with what is really wrong. And at the center of it is their relational world is a mess. Every person, no matter where they are in their journey, their relationships are broken, they're damaged, they've been hurt by people and they've hurt people. And the only way to recover is to recover and heal those broken relationships, or at least begin to work through forgiveness or reconciliation, own what you've done, face those things, and work through the pain that you're carrying, and learn a new strategy to change. And if you can do that, then the more you recover, the better your world is on the outside. So it's not recovery from drugs, it's recovery in relationship. So you can be drug-free and still be in a mess.
Got it. So at that time, you're still in marriage with your ex-wife?
Yep.
And do you disclose every time you like
I tried that. I tried disclosing with my ex now. I tried disclosing, and every time I disclosed, she would get hurt more and react differently. And so at some point, I just quit talking until I entered into real recovery. When I entered into real recovery, the interesting thing happens when you start healing. Usually in a couple, when you start healing, when one person starts healing, the other person is in their dysfunction because they have to be operating in dysfunction to be in relationship with you. And when you stop dancing with dysfunction and you start bringing healing in your life, the other person now is faced with, oh my gosh, I got to deal with my stuff. And a lot of marriages end because one person's going and recovering their life and the other one doesn't want to change, because the blame has always been on the one person, and now the one person's getting healing and now their dysfunction is showing up. And so the idea then is that it takes two people to recover in anything. There's a dance that happens. So you can't blame I can't blame my addiction on my ex-wife, but I can say that she had her own dysfunction to allow that to operate for years without her doing anything about it, about making her own choices, making her own health. She was using it as a way to hide behind her own stuff. So anyhow, long story short is that for the more healing I got, the worse she became. And so
what happened to her? What happened to her?
I can't go into her story other than to say that she was hospitalized several times for different things, and that she eating disorders and self-destructive behaviors and suicidal stuff. And she went in and out of the hospital several times and continued to get worse. And the last one was, we spent a ton of money in the last hospital. It was 6 months. And 6 months in the hospital, or not hospital, but a recovery program, and 3 months in aftercare, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks coming home, she was back in the same hole. So it's not simple. And I wish, I would have known what I know now. I could have done things a little less messy. Let's just say that. But I, it didn't work out. She chose to walk away, and there's nothing I could do about it. I would have preferred to try to walk it out and to heal, because I know I played a big role in the mess. But she had her own mess too, and she had her own stuff to deal with, and she didn't do it. It was unfortunate, and it was hard to go through that. 27 years of marriage ended, and so it took me a while I just stayed single for quite a while just to kind of get my own feet back. But
So there was a 17-year in between when you're 29, fast forward, you pretty much covered 2 more decades. You're in a marriage and doing recovery, doing everything. That's pretty much what was happening.
Yep.
So what kind of recovery did you join when you say your transformation took place when you did the real recovery? What was that? You mentioned the three, the father wound healing, the
Sexual trauma stuff.
sexual trauma stuff, and then the third one is sexual deviance.
Right.
I don't know what you call that part, the deliverance or healing from that. So 3 steps, right?
Well, it wasn't steps; those are just areas. Every person has.
Right.
Every person has. When you look at people's story, the first important piece is a story comes out. What is your real story? And so discovering my real story, what is that? You're getting it out there. And then when you look at the story, just like you would see a doctor go, let's do a full exam on your body. Let's just go look at you fully, and now we can decide what is the plan to help you get health, right? So every person's different. There's not a one size fits all here. So the goal is to get your story out in an authentic way. What is your real story? So the first part of healing for us is the first step is to discover your story, to learn about your story, to know what it is, and to see where the hurts are, where the mistakes are, where the pain is, where the unforgiveness that I'm carrying, and where the trauma is, and where the shame is, and what are the tools to build a relationship. And there's so much to work on. And so the idea of getting a full story out, then we can say, what are the steps that we need to do to help bring that person to a place of health? And because healing is a journey, you don't just take on 30 things at once. You take on different things. And so my first real step was dealing with the father wound. And then, second was dealing with the sexual trauma. And then I did the whole, the dysfunction, sexual lies that I believe from pornography and the abuse. And then I dealt with mother wound stuff, which has played a significant part. Then what does it mean to have a relational health? So then there's John Townsend and Henry Cloud, learning what it means to have healthy relationships, boundaries, forgiveness, reconciliation, having a voice, listening, responding, having healthy relational skills, because if I don't have the tools to build relationship, then I won't get what I want. So I can want healthy relationships, but everything I'm doing is sabotaging it. So I actually have to relearn skills to build relationship. So I have to unlearn and relearn relational health. So
that's really, really helpful, powerful. Could you elaborate a little bit? I love that. I think that's a lot of people want to get healed. And first of all, you basically said, we need to provide a safe place for people to come out from that. The second one, if they come out, like you did, but still doesn't guarantee you can be healed from all the situation. So these are the tools. And so I'd love to, maybe you can explain 2 or 3 sentences each. What do you mean by heal father wounds?
Sure.
Sexual.
Sure.
Those I'm not using the word steps, but just like the areas. So what does that mean? So we can give people a sense of where they can go after they watch your show.
Well, the father wound is wrapped up in just a simple statement of what was your relationship like with your father, and the impact that your father had on you growing up, and the idea that most fathers are absent from the home, or are so busy that they are there but they're not there. And so a wound can happen in 2 different ways. One, it can happen in what we call type A trauma, which is what didn't happen, which in other words is there's no bruising, there's no beating, there's no words, there's no event. So there's nothing to point to, but it's the lack of what didn't happen in your life, the lack of nurture, the lack of love, lack of information, the lack of care. You hear where I'm going. So it's the lack of. So those are invisible wounds. They're much harder to put language to because there's no event to point to. So there's type A trauma and there's type B trauma.
Can I just stop you from saying, would that be qualified as lack of true intimacy?
Yeah, lack of connection.
Lack of connection, like true intimacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, every child needs to know that they're loved, and how does that happen? It isn't going to be just on the physical side. It's going to be in hugs and connection. And fathers are the primary place for boys to learn about what it means to be a man. So the father wound is, and then for women, it's a primary place where they learn what a safe man looks like. And so women get their tools from how their father treats them. And so how their father engages them determines the kind of men they'll choose. And interesting enough. And so the father wound is huge for men and women. And so the book called Healing the Masculine Soul by Gordon Dalby is probably one of the best books out there, and he's been around for almost 40 years. A therapist and a pastor, and he's retired now, but his book is powerful and great, and it deals with the father wound. And then the whole the sexual wounding. There's a ton of books out there around sexual trauma, and there wasn't in my time when I was entering healing, there wasn't a whole lot of books out there that were healthy. There's a ton of books that tell you what's wrong, not a whole lot of books that tell you how to heal. And so Jan Frank was the first person that I heard tell her own story and be authentic about her own abuse in her life and the impact it had on her life and how she began to walk out change. And the difference between healing and actually, being aware of your problem is huge, because there's a lot of people who know everything about their sexual abuse and how it impacted them, but they got no clue how to thrive. All they know how to do is survive. And that surviving is not that's not restoration. That's not healing. We were not meant to survive, we were meant to thrive. And so Jan and also Gordon Dalby, the book for men, is that they were sharing their own stories, and they were talking about their own journey healing and what healing looks like, what connection looks like. And so it made all the difference in the world to have somebody actually model what it meant to heal. So Jan not only talked about the damage, but she brought the healing side to it, and gave a strong picture of what healing looked like. And then, then Ray Jones was, I don't know if he's ever written a book. I've never seen anything, but he had a whole lot of research and data and stuff he's done, and he has his license based on abnormal sexual behavior. And I didn't even know that such a therapist existed. But he's extremely good and helped a lot and made it safe to talk about things that you would never say to anybody, and got it out in the open and talked about it. And then, I went to a treatment center, outpatient treatment center, for a couple of weeks to deal with some other stuff. And I did, I've done the relational health stuff. I've done a ton of conferences and workshops and books and on relational health. And Larry Crabb was probably the biggest impact in my life about authenticity and relationship and how you as a professional live authenticity out. And his books are all really good. He's deceased now, but relational health is the most important aspect to everything. So if you don't have relationships and there's no life happening, and if you have no life happening, no energy happening, you have no energy to do the hard work. So you won't do the hard work unless you're connected. So relational health is absolutely priority. So I do that first now. I don't do it last. I do it first, because you need that before you enter into the hard things. And but I didn't.
That's wonderful. Do you have a whole list of these people, the books,
Sure.
things that we could read? Okay, great.
Sure.
Great.
I can get that to you. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. We would love to maybe read the books and we can interject what they have said to support what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so if you think about
I couldn't take the note down fast enough. I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
but when you think about recovery then being a journey, rather than an event, because you're not going to get all those issues worked out in one moment. So in my day, growing up in church, that you'd get up front and they put oil on your head and they'd slap you and think that they'd knock you down, that you've got the healing. and the greater you shouted, the greater things were, or the demons were in your world, and if they could deliver you, then you'll be free and you'll never do it again. And so they'll do these prayers and these rituals and fasting and all, and none of the things are necessarily, there's a little wackiness in a demon thing they're doing, but the idea of deliverance is a real thing. But there's nothing wrong with fasting, and there's nothing wrong with memorization of scripture, and there's nothing wrong with praying for people. But when you're using it as a cure and a can, like you do this and you're no longer going to have that behavior, that is setting us up for failure again and again and again. Because when I go through that experience, they pray for me, or I go through the fast, or I do whatever they're telling me to do, and I do it again, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm broken. They're telling me truth. There must be something wrong with me. So it reinforces my brokenness and my shame rather than, so somehow there's something wrong with me that it's not working. And the truth is no, it's malpractice. You're giving information as it to be for health when it's not true. It's not accurate. You're misapplying health, the information for health. So I think we appropriately need to find the people that help us heal. So also the idea that if you need physical health going along with it, then you get a physical therapist, you get a dietitian. That's part of recovery, is getting yourself in a healthy space. And right now in my world, I'm 40 pounds overweight. So I'm still in recovery. I'm still working. I'm still growing. I've done a ton of healing, but I'm still working on me. And part of the thing that sabotages the me is how I see myself. So it's that another layer of working is that you take care of what you value and what you love. And if there's a part of you that's still self-loathing or self-contempt, then your body will reflect that.
Interesting. That's really, really helpful. So I'm just adding the number from age 19 to 27 years married, now age 46, right? We're talking about with a lot of recovery work, and you were married and then got divorced?
Yeah.
When you were 46 or 47?
Yeah, close to that. I can't remember. I'm terrible about numbers, so
it's okay. It's memory.
Yeah, I won't remember exact on the numbers.
Yeah, sure.
But I got divorced, and then and so I made a choice to get married again in 2008. And I got married in 2008 to someone who I made a mistake in that choice. The person was only wanted marriage for the money. She came from Colombia and found out that money being taken, and I just won't go into all the details except for the fact that it was a mistake, and it was a tough one because I believe in marriage, and it was a tough one. But she ended up walking away when confronted rather than working on it. And so that blew me out. It's like, oh my gosh, there's two relationships. I'm just not gonna get married. I'm done. I'm just gonna be single for the rest of my life. And I got really healthy relationships around me. I know how to do that. But in some ways, for me, my picker was broken. And my picker meaning that I picked the people who I think I can help rather than actually could be a partner. And so, because when I pick people that I can help, that means that I'm picking someone that I'm not on the same level with, and we're not really partners. I'm really a helper rather than a partner, which is mutual responsibility, mutual care, mutual openness, mutual growth. Everything is mutual. It's not one over the other. When there's a power differential, it's not healthy.
That makes sense. That's great.
So, go ahead. Go ahead.
You went through so much recovery. What was the engine drive these desires? Because you said a lot of conferences, go to different places. What was the motivation behind it? What made you want to do that? Because part of the reason we notice guys don't want to do it. Trying to keep happy. But you want to stay in that, whatever they are, they think is not so bad. You are were you getting rewarded for doing this? Did you feel
Oh, yeah.
better? Like, what was the thing that drives you to do this recovery?
Well, there are two things that drive us. One is pain, and the other one is need, and the other one is needs. So, remembering the pain that I lived in, and the isolation and the mistakes made. So, pain is a driver for me to be healthy, so that I don't ever want to go back to that. So I want to learn different patterns. I want to learn different skills. I want to learn a different way. And when I see the same patterns showing up that I know that are going to take me back in a wrong space, it motivates me to just pick it up until, if I'm not learning how to do it, then find somebody else that I can learn from. But I want to. So I always look for the person who wasn't afraid to show their own story, show how they did it, because instead of them talking about it, they actually did it. They actually show it and demonstrate it. You know, so that was one. And the second thing is the need, which is a really big deal, and that is that when you start tasting what you want, that gives you the energy for more. And so when I started tasting the real, I'll never go back.
So explain about that. How do you taste it? At that time, do you taste it with grace, or that's much later?
Well,
You taste that before grace came along.
it's different levels for everything. I mean, levels for the relationship, having healthy relationships started the ball rolling, and then I wanted more. And then the thing where it wasn't being applied was marriage. Marriage was the challenge because I kept picking the wrong person. My picker was broken. You know, I kept picking a different face, but the same problems. So anyhow, so when Grace came along, Grace was a different animal, and I was.
Can we just take a quick break? Is that okay? Now, quick pause. So, how many wrong person? You had 2 marriages. Did you have more in between before Grace?
No, that's it. 2.
So did you have many years of singleness during
Yeah,
the period?
yeah. I had about, let's see, from 2001 to 2008 was the time when I was single, and then I got married.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and then I got married, and to the second marriage was in 2008 to 2020 to 2020. 2000.
Well, that's quite long. That's 12 years.
Yeah, I tried to make it work. Yeah.
Wow.
Right, tried to make it work. I didn't want to quit. And then Grace and I met 2021, and we were, neither one of us were looking for a spouse by no means. And I would say that we became best friends first, and I think that is one of the keys to relationships, especially marriage, is that if you get married because of the way they look or the sex, that all gets, wrinkles happen, gravity happens, things don't stay the same, and then why are you still married? The idea that you're best friends first, so you build a real relationship, and on that everything stands. And so Grace and I were open, honest, no hiding. We know each other's stories. We have equal responsibilities. We partner, and just growing and learning how to partner in some ways, and how to, when you see there's something that's messy, you work on it to correct it. So there's no such thing as perfection anywhere. But so we've had a lot of work we've done together. But what I love about Grace, and I've never had that with any other person, is that when she has something to work on, she works on it. She doesn't sit back and point fingers. She owns it, and then goes through whatever she needs to go through to work on it. And same for me. And that we can, and we have the skills to, when we have conflict, we know how to work through them. Through conflict, we know how to forgive and how to reconcile. We know how to set boundaries and to respect those boundaries. We know how to listen and how to respond, how to respect and how to value. All those things are tools that are essential, and all those are very visible in our relationship. So Yeah, I mean, so if I'm doing anything, literally anything, Grace is the biggest duck in the puddle. She wants to be involved. She didn't want to be left out. She's a true partner. She doesn't want, and she gives me. She's not going to try to own my life where I can't have any breath. I mean, I can go do whatever I want to do individually, like with friends or whatever. But that's not what I mean. She's simply a best friend, and we can do life together, have fun together, enjoy being together, and then she takes on responsibilities. I can't think of a place where she hasn't stepped in and said, "How can I help? How can I be a part?" Yeah, it's never sit back and just watch me do something, knowing that I could use help or be a part. And the same with me, with her. I want to see her be successful, and I want her to thrive and grow, and whatever that takes for her, and be supportive of that and invest in that. And she has a voice. She gets to be just as much of a part of making decisions. However, it's growing wise. When you've been single, you've made decisions for yourself, and so letting somebody else come in and help with decisions isn't simple. So we have some journey with, making sure that we're doing things together. We both have a voice. We're both making those decisions. So, I'd say that our this is the first time that I've seen and tasted a marriage for me, marriage working in it, with everything that I've been teaching and living. It's just authenticity. We're being real. We're walking things out. We have trust. We're working the tools. When I do retreats, she tells her story. She teaches. She leads group. She's just as much as a part of it as I am, and that was never the case. That was never the case in the other relationship. None of them were on a personal journey.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Then took you until you were 60 something to meet her.
Yeah.
I think people look right. 61. 60 what?
Oh boy. Let's see. I'm 70 now, so I would say 66. Yeah.
Well, that's a good age. That's a good number. Okay, that's great. That's what a lot of people hope that if they struggle early on in their lives, that they still have true happiness when they finally mature and heal the wounds. The motherhood part, I do want to go back, just briefly talk about that, and anything in there.
So, boy, this is such an important piece, because how I'm using porn. So when I was using porn, to demean, to dehumanize, to use a woman up and throw her away says a lot about how I see women. And the first relationship I have with a woman is my mom. And so in some ways there are things that are contributing to my view of women based upon relationship that I have with my mom. But also it can be mom, it can be sisters, it can be aunts, it can be teachers. So you can look at the extended, but the first one is your mom. So it isn't that moms are bad or evil, and my mom is amazing, and I love her very much, so I'm not anti my mom. But there are some things that my mom did that were profoundly hurtful and painful, and for me and it contributed to how I saw women in the time. And what that simply means is that if I don't trust women, then I will use them rather than open myself up. So when you objectify someone, you're making it safer, because then you don't have to open up. You use them, and walk away. You don't have to be real. You don't have to be open. You don't have to be vulnerable. You don't have to trust. You don't have to risk. You can just use and go. And so this is more about trust than it. So there was a lot of things that happened early on, and my mom was 15 when she got married, 16 when she had me. So you can say, I didn't really think much about that, but as I've worked with 15 and 16-year-old kids, and seeing, you know, where they are mentally, and to have a child at that age. You know, my mom did pretty dang good for being 16 and now when I look back, but it still doesn't take away the fact that there was hurt. And there were some things that didn't go so well. But we've worked through those, and that's part of the healing, you know, is to face those who have hurt you and those who you've harmed as well. And so, but the mother wound plays a significant role because it's how I see nurture, because the mother is the primary nurturer. So many times we're afraid of that because of being being controlled, smothered, you know, being too close. A lot of mothers tend to use their children when the relationship's not going well with their spouse. They tend to lean on their older boys as a way to cover where the father is not doing his job to be responsible. So the boy becomes almost like a spouse in the home. There isn't any sex, there isn't any appropriate touching or any of that, but there's inappropriate roles where the child is carrying the role of a father rather than a role of a kid. And that causes huge wounds. And so the idea of figuring out what it is that is the damage is, and facing that and walking through it. And like I said, every person's got a different story. There's no two stories the same. So
that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's a book out there. John Townsend has one called The Mom Factor, and there's a couple other books out there as well that talk about the mother relationship. But in this world that we're in, the idea that, you know, the mother is the angel and the father is a butt, you know, kind of thing is wrong. It's just wrong. That we don't allow the mother to actually realize that the mother can cause some serious wounding in their own children by the way that she's walking out her journey, and that she's not an angel. She's just like her spouse. They both have dysfunction. They both have struggles, and those struggles profoundly impact those around them. So one doesn't get a pass. They both have work to do. So to have a holistic approach to healing is I want to look at how the wounds I have for my father and the wounds I have for my mother, and not demonize them because I have wounds. They're human beings. They've made mistakes just like anybody else does. But I gotta look at those honestly and heal.
That makes sense. Totally makes sense. That's great. So you met Grace, so it has been 4 years. Things have been going well, right?
Oh yeah.
And you just talked about that. That's great. What made you guys decide to go from Los Angeles or California to Alaska? How long ago did you?
I've been in Alaska almost 25 years. So yeah.
Okay.
So I've been here for quite a while. Grace, and I'll let Grace tell her story there. They'll tell you how she got to Alaska and all that. But we met about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, somewhere in there. And she came to one of my conferences, and we met there, and then started a friendship over time. And I couldn't believe how well we were bonding, and how close we became, and it just was just very. After a year and a half of friendship, we made a decision to marry, and so yeah, and that's been the best decision I've ever made relationally. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So can I ask you a very personal question?
Sure.
So how's the sex? What compared to what you were pursuing before? So all the men out there want to hear that part of the story. Everyone.
I'd say I'd say that it's really, I think our sexual relationship is growing, that we love each other, we're intimate, and I think I think it's good. I think it's really good, but I think there's room for all of us to grow and heal. I think for me to say, let me put it this way, because I think this is at the center of it, is that I want you to imagine that all those years that I hid myself for the sake of love. This relationship, there's no hiding. And she loves me more than I've ever had anyone love me better, and relationally. So go figure that creates fireworks because I can be me.
That's beautiful. Can I say, you experienced love firsthand when that friend hugged you, right? And are you saying you experienced that from Grace every single day, that kind of love
Right.
experience?
Right.
That's beautiful.
And so
Can you just say it in your own words?
well, the first time, there's been certain people in my life over my journey that have made a mark on my life, and that big mark was, Butch Plummer, the pastor, who embraced me, and I tasted authenticity, being loved, and being real at the same time, and that started the ball rolling with, I want more of that. Whatever he gave me, I want more of. And it's been a journey. If there ever is been a journey in my life, it's that. It's to reciprocate that, to get that, to grow that, and marriage is always the problem. And what I find, I have couples come to me all the time, and they're not open with each other. They're fighting over just the surface stuff. And they don't trust each other. They don't feel safe with each other. So they're living life surviving. They're not in an open. So my desire was always to try to bring what I experienced with Butch to a marriage. But in the first two marriages, there's no way that it didn't work. It was no matter how much I tried to work on it, they were not people that I could build a relationship with, because you had to be different than yourself. With Grace, she goes to everything. She knows my story inside out. She probably knows it better than I do. And she not only hears my story, but comes into my life and supports me and loves me well and knows where my weak spaces are. And we're still growing and learning. We're still at 3 years of marriage right now. Not quite 3 years of marriage. Yeah, sure. We're still getting to know each other in many ways, but our relationship is light years ahead of what I've ever experienced before, and there's no words to put to having your spouse fully know you, and still be drawn to you, and still use the words "you're handsome." You're special. I love you. And one of the things for sure I can say is that Grace is genuine. So if you get to know Grace, there's not a mean bone or an unloving bone in her body, and so she's genuine. And so when she says something like that, she's meaning it. And so to have my story on the table, and her story on the table too. I know her story inside and out, and we both love each other well. It's
beautiful. You speak as a man who's completely madly in love right now, just gorgeous to watch, and your demeanor, your constant change from your previous story even now. So I can't wait to get to the brief story. I just want one story you told was really powerful. It's about your 12-year-old grandson story. The Shannon story. I'd like to end that, if that's okay.
Sure.
Then I want to Grace coming in. Then I want you two at some way to interact with each other, so you can really see what it looks like.
Sure. So I think the last and final thing around Grace is to realize that when I messed up. And my life came to an end in my mind when I was arrested and the whole world found out. I could never imagine that I would have love in my life. I could never imagine that I would have any kind of healing or that life would be the same. I could never imagine that.
Yeah.
And all I could see is survival. How do I survive this? To have what I have right now is beyond any kind of imagination. So when God says He'll bless you above when you ask, when you come to Him, that He'll answer your prayers above and beyond what you can even think or ask, and that is the truth. Is that God desires to bless us beyond our even ability to imagine.
Amazing.
But it is the blessings coming, not necessarily financially. That would be awesome, but it's not the finances. It's the love. It's the connection. It's the relationship, and it's far beyond above what I could ever have thought of. Thinking back at the depravity, at my feeling that my life was over, that nothing could ever come good out of this, and to see now that I'm tasting what God intended for me, and that is to be thriving in His love and thriving in relationship, and that we're having impact in ways that I had never thought was possible. So for me, this is amazing.
That's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Oh.
I want to end that, and you can say that again when Grace finished her part.
Sure.
And anything else we left?
So my grandson. You wanted to hear about the grandson?
Right. Yes.
Okay, then we'll wrap it up. So, go ahead.
You took her to camping, and
Yeah.
some local churches said come over, give a talk, and everything. So
Yeah.
from there, maybe there's something else.
No, that's it. It's my grandson comes out usually once a year here in Alaska to go camping. And we spend a couple weeks out, away from everything, 4-wheeling, camping. We have big fire. We go get wood, and there's eagles everywhere. He just looks forward to doing it every year, and it's been a couple years since he's been here for a couple good reasons. But for now, my grandson loves coming here. So anyhow, we were on a camping trip with him here, and I got a phone call asking me while I was at the camp if I would come and speak at a conference, and the conference was about 30 minutes away from where we were camping. And I thought, no, I'm on vacation with my grandson. No, I'm not doing that. And my grandson said, no, Grandpa, I've never heard your story. And he was 13, 14, somewhere there. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I want my grandson to know that story. I don't know if that's the appropriate time and age to be telling him that. And I just went through a whole lot of mental gymnastics about it. And he insisted. He just said, no, Grandpa, I want to go. I want to do this. So I said yes. And so anyhow, the time came for me to go, and we packed up the camp enough to where we could leave it. And we went to the speaking thing, and I'm thinking, okay, so what do I tell? What kind of story do I tell? What do I say? And what do I leave out? And I just felt the Lord say, no, you don't leave nothing out. You just go for it. Well, why are you going to hold back? And I said, why are you going to hold back? And so I did. I just went there, and there was a huge reaction, great impact, great time. But when I got in a truck with my grandson, he was dead silent. He didn't say a word. And I'm thinking, okay, what's he thinking? I'm just kind of concerned. And so we drive back to the camp, and he still wasn't talking. And so I asked him to set up the fire, and I got things back out again, and we sat around the fire. And finally I said, okay, you're killing me. What is going on in you? You haven't said a word. And he just got real quiet, and he looked up at me, and he said, Grandpa, you just told me your story. You told your story excuse me. Grandpa, you just told my story. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah, he says, the things that you shared is my story. And I just thought, oh, what? I don't even have words for what. My 14-year-old grandson is struggling and with the same things I was. And so we sat around that fire till 3 a.m, literally just talking. He unpacked his story, talked about it, and I'm responding to it, and we're engaging back and forth. And so it was around 3, and I said, look, do me a favor. Let's wrap up. Why don't you go to bed? I need to sit and think about things here a little bit. I want to kind of debrief in my own mind. And so he goes to bed, and I'm sitting there. Tears are flowing, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm crying. I mean, I get the fact that it's painful and what he's gone through, but there's something big going on in me. And all of a sudden it just kind of hit me. It's like, Gene, what would it be like for you when you were 12, if you could have sat around a fire and told your story? If you could have said what you were struggling with, what do you think the impact would be? What do you think that would have done for you? And I just realized, like, wow, that would have made all the difference in the world. And to realize then that I'm not only changing my own life, I'm breaking the cycle. I'm breaking the cycle of this not passing on. And that just because if he learns what it means to stop it now, he's not going to take that into his career, his marriage, him being a father. He's gonna have the tools to face this stuff early. Man, that just lit me on fire, because to think about all the young boys, because the number one consumer of pornography is boys the ages 12 to 17. That's where they're getting their education. And if we could break that cycle early and give them the confidence to face this early, we can change the whole face of what we see today in the whole sexual exploitation, because those kids become a consumer. And if we can stop that early, we stop it. We end this.
Amen.
And so I think the ending of it is in the teens.
Beautiful. I love that. Maybe when you think about these words you just said, I think it's so powerful and restated, so it's a clean cut. It would be the final word for these episodes. I think that's great. I love that. So what's happening to him now? Is he 14 now? He was 12 back then.
No, he's around 20 now.
He's a 20. Oh wow, how's he doing?
Yeah, he has normal young struggles.
Okay.
So, but he's got the tools, and
Okay. Is he using his tools?
I think some, yes, he's still learning, but I'd say he's moving in a good way. And my younger grandson, he's in the same way. He's moving in a good way. So I would say that they're both moving because they're having discussion now. I didn't do that till I was 29.
Right.
Right.
Trying to go to jail, right? So
right.
Yeah.
And they're not going to jail to get that to come out in the open.
Exactly.
They're actually coming out in a safe environment and learning to talk about it, which is what builds relationship, is learning to use your words rather than your actions.
You become a butch plumber, pastor by your friends.
I think that's an accurate statement, actually. that
I'm trying to build a connection.
Yeah. Butch Plumber was the rock in the pond, and that rippling effect is now not only affecting me, but it's affecting my family, and it's affecting others.
Right. So hopefully with the documentary we can affect a lot more people. That's beautiful. So when you were saying you're 12, when you said you were killing me, and what are you thinking? And he looked at you, at least do a comfort, he said, Grandpa, your story is my story. Would you be able to just say that without break?
Yeah. So when we sat around the campfire, and he was really quiet and looking into the fire and not saying anything, and I said, "What's going on? You're killing me. Your silence is just killing me." And he said, "Grandpa, your story is my story." That just took my breath away, because he just heard my story. He just heard everything that I just shared. And to even think that even a piece of that story was a part of his story, totally hits me at a heart level. Like, oh my gosh. No, I'll say something that really kind of, I'll say something that I think is a very interesting thing that I've been chewing on. Before the foundations of the world, God knew I would make this choice, the choice to make the mistakes I did. He knew that I would fall and fail and struggle, but He also knew that I would get healing and help and change. And I believe that all the things I've been through, everything that I've walked through to get healing and health in my world, was preparation for that moment in front of the fire, so that I would be adequate, equipped, and able to enter into a story that could have been destructive, but now my story actually is bringing healing.
Beautiful.
So is it worth it to fight, to change, to do the work? That fire where I saw my grandson's eyes and I saw what was going on in his heart, is it worth it? I'd go through it again. Because my recovery gave me the ability to face that with Him. And so sometimes we lose hope in when we look at all the things we got to do. This is a big mess and we don't know how we're going to do it. But I can tell you that every bit of what you take back is not just for you, but it's for generations to come. And it's for the light that God wants to give you. And so, is it worth it? You better believe it's worth it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Really beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I love that. I love what you yeah, I'm trying to find a strong ending with your whole, I mean, as you were talking about it, I'm so glad you talked a lot more about recovery, what it takes to heal, to be delivered from that. And I haven't heard that from any of the documentaries or talks. Those are the real things that help people to be set free, which is really, really what we're supposed to do every 61.
Yeah.
To set people free, so
Yeah.
we lead people from prisoner to freedom and really going to see. So you just did it. Thank you.
Well, just notice your Isaiah 61 that you just noted. You just said is that He come to heal the brokenhearted and to set the captive free, and both of those, and they're tied together. You don't get captive without the heart broken.
Exactly. So you're welcome to quote that later when Bree finished her story. Do whatever you want to do, but I think this is really, really great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is awesome. Thank you. It's about 6 o'clock.